Not seeing my videos in your subscription feed? Make sure you've clicked the little bell next to the subscribe button to be notified of all my newest uploads. Hey, what's up, people? Piz out here, and I'm going to talk to you guys about the upcoming Vestron Video Collector's Series Blu-ray release for 1987's The Gate. Now, this is mostly going to be a review of this Blu-ray release, but I also want to talk to you guys about the movie, because I've never really talked about The Gate on this channel. I actually did a review of The Gate's much lesser known sequel, The Gate 2, for my series The Lost. As a matter of fact, it kicked off that series entitled The Lost, in which I discussed lesser known, more obscure movies that I think deserve to be seen, like 4 years ago, somewhere around that time. So I'll put a link to that video at the end of this video. But I've always really admired The Gate for a couple of reasons. Number one, The Gate is a horror movie that is accessible to both adult horror fans and younger horror fans. It's a family-friendly horror movie. And I can only think of really two of those that I would recommend off the top of my head. One of them being, of course, The Gate, the other being The Monster Squad. But I've always applauded The Gate for skirting that line and being able to be a film that appeases both adult horror fans and young horror fans, and can be a family-friendly horror movie. So I've always, that's a very difficult thing to do. So the fact that The Gate does it and does it as well as it does is, worthy of applause in my book. I've also always loved The Gate for its effects. There are some excellent effects in this movie. Some excellent old school in-camera effects in this movie. Now, this was a low-budget movie. They didn't have a whole lot of time to set up these effects. They didn't have a whole lot of money to spend on them. But the forced perspective effects in this movie, even by today's standards, even watching this movie for the first time in a couple of years just the other night, I was blown away by them. They are so well done. They are so seamlessly integrated that, really, they're flawless, I would say. They are great, great old school in-camera special effects. And those kinds of special effects, I'm going on a CGI rant here, so bear with me. Those kinds of effects, there's a heart and a soul to them. There's a tactile quality to them. And there's an artistry to them. And all those things are just so sorely lacking in the CGI of today. And the producer of this film on this Blu-ray actually discusses the fact that they're trying to make a Gate remake. And I just thought to myself, it'll all just be CGI. It'll all be flat, bad-looking CGI. And it'll be as if we took a big leap backward, as far as technology is concerned. The effects in this film, the forced perspective effects are excellent. The stop motion animation effects toward the end of the movie, yeah, you can see stop motion animation effects coming at you a mile away, but they look really good in this movie. So the old school in-camera practical effects in this film are phenomenal. I've always loved the effects in this movie. Now, I was really excited when I heard that Vestron Video was going to be releasing a collector's series Blu-ray for this movie, because I've always liked this movie. I'm sure pretty much all of you guys out there have heard of this movie. You've most likely seen it, and you probably like The Gate. And I'm sure you're aware of The Gate's history on DVD. It got a bare bones DVD release years and years ago. It went out of print. That release actually had this cover art, the original poster art design for the film on it. For the longest time, you could pick it up on eBay for, $100 or more. Then we finally got a really nice DVD release back in 2009 from Lionsgate. But I was super excited when I saw that this was coming from Vestron Video to be part of their collector's series of Blu-ray releases. A, because we get that awesome cover art there, which is great, I think. And this thing is chock full of extras. It's kind of the best of both worlds. You get a lot of the extras from the 2009 DVD release ported over, and a lot of brand new, really good extras for us to sink our teeth into. If you haven't seen The Gate, this is a great way to introduce yourself to the film. If you're a fan of The Gate, you're definitely going to want to check this Blu-ray out. As far as the picture and sound quality are concerned, there's nothing on the back of this release to indicate that there's any fancy new transfer. I will say that the picture quality looks pretty darn good. I didn't do a screen-by-screen comparison to the 2009 DVD, but it looked pretty darn good. The sound quality is pretty darn good as well. On the back here, it basically just says 1080p high definition, 16:9 widescreen, 1.851 presentation, original 2.0 stereo audio, and that's it. But the picture and the sound quality are both really good. Now let's take a look at the extras for The Gate. And you guys know I'm all about diligent note-taking when it comes to these releases, so bear with me here. There's a lot to go over. First up, we have got a 27.5-minute featurette called The Gate Unlocked. It's basically just a conversation between director Tibor Takacs and special effects designer and supervisor Randall William Cook. They discuss how the two met and meshed over the script for The Gate. Takacs discusses developing the script with both horror and humor in mind, and approaching the material with a child's imagination in mind, and how he wanted to make it kind of a dark fairy tale. Cook discusses creating the visual effects for the film with very little time and money, including designing the minions, pulling off the forced perspective shots, etc., etc. They discuss the legacy of the film. Really nice. Like I said, just kind of a conversation between the two of them that lasts about 27.5 minutes. Informative, a very nice extra there. Next up, we have got Minion Maker. It's an interview with special makeup effects artist Craig Reardon. It's about 22 minutes in length. He discusses creating the workman zombie for the film, and of course the minions, the minion suits, the minion heads, and how they were designed, and some of the shortcomings of the suits for both him as a designer and for the performers working inside the suits. Very informative, very nice interview there with Mr. Reardon, about 22 minutes in length. Next up, we have got From Hell It Came, which is about 13 minutes in length. It's an interview with co-producer Andres Hamori. If I butchered that name, I apologize. But he discusses how he became involved in The Gate as a producer. He discusses how the original script for the film was much too dark for his liking, and how he wanted to make it more of a lighter tone, more of a more accessible film, put it that way. He discusses meeting a young Stephen Dorff for the first time, who, as soon as he arrived on the set, he walked up to Mr. Hamori and asked, "Where are the chicks?" So even as a little tyke, Stephen Dorff was all about the ladies. Mr. Hamori discusses the opening of the film and how well it was distributed, and how it became the highest grossing Canadian production of 1987. He also discusses the film's legacy and cult status, and he discusses briefly that he is trying to get the Gate remake off the ground. So next up, we have got The Workman Speaks. It's a 12-minute interview with Carl Cranes. He played the workman zombie. In the film, he discusses that he was initially hired as a voice coach on the film to make the Canadian actors sound more American. This was a Canadian production, a lot of Canadian local actors in front of the camera, a lot of Canadian local people behind the camera. So they wanted to make the movie sound more American. And since he was already there on the set, and to cut costs, they said, hey, just play the workman zombie. So he discusses working with the prosthetics and how long it took to apply them. He discusses working with all the kids and how much fun he had making the film. 12 minutes, kind of brief, but a very nice interview with Mr. Cranes. Next up, we have got a 28.5-minute featurette called Made in Canada. It's a series of interviews with 6 members of the local cast and crew of The Gate. They discuss how Canada had become a hotbed for film production at the time because of the tax benefits that shooting in Canada provided, and how the influx of TV and movie productions provided local actors and filmmakers opportunities to work in the business. They all discuss working on The Gate. Either there was one guy guy who played a minion in the Gate. There was the third assistant director on the film, the costume designer, etc., etc. They share a story about how the producer, Mr. Oh goodness, what was his name? Harmony, I do believe, visited the set one day to just kind of see how things were going. And as soon as he stepped foot on the set, he fell through the set. And according to this person, he fell about 3 stories. So once they got to him, they dusted him off. They helped him up. They were like, "Are you okay? Do you need us to call anybody?" And he said, "Nope, just keep on shooting. Just keep shooting." One of the guys interviewed actually played a minion in the film. He discusses how to get them in the suits, they had to cover them in baby powder just to get them in the suits. Then once you're in the suit, you're in it all day. So they had to monitor how much they ate and how much they drank, because you couldn't just run off for a quick bathroom break. And the suits were so tight that when you would sweat in them, all the sweat would collect in the hands and in the fingers. So the hands and the fingers would be weighed down, and there would be sweat puddles in the hands and the fingers of the outfit. So sounds like a blast playing a minion in the Gate. But I really enjoyed this extra on this disc. Very informative, really cool, really nice extra for this Blu-ray release. Next up, we have got From Hell, the Creatures and Demons of the Gate. It's about 14 minutes. It's an interview with Randall William Cook and Craig Reardon. It is ported over from the 2009 DVD release of the film. They discuss the use of force perspective in the film, the design of the minions, creating the minion suits, creating the minion heads, the design of the workman zombie, and how Mr. Reardon didn't want it to simply look like just another zombie from another zombie movie. They discuss how they pulled off a lot of the force perspective shots with the minions, the stop motion animation of the Demon Lord at the end of the film. Very informative, really nice interview with both of them. Next up, we have got The Gatekeepers, which is about 15 and a half minutes in length. It's also ported over from the 2009 DVD release. It's an interview with screenwriter Michael Nankin and director Tibor Cox. Nankin discusses writing the script and how his original story was much, much darker, and how it came. He was in a very dark place in his life when he was writing the screenplay. He discusses how he had initially developed it with himself attached as the director, but then eventually it was, I don't want to say taken away from him, but it was taken away from him and given to Tibor Cox. But Tibor Cox was a nice guy. Tibor Cox discusses how he wanted to keep Michael Nankin close to the filming of the movie. Cox discusses casting the film and the logistical nightmare of working with children, particularly when they're in every scene of your movie, but because of child labor laws, they can only work 7 hours a day max. They also discuss the release of the film and how the movie outperformed Ishtar its opening weekend, a movie that had a much bigger budget, just put it that way. Next up, we've got Making of the Gate. It's over 20 minutes. It's a vintage making of featurette, which features interviews with Tibor Cox, Michael Nankin, and Randall William Cook. They talk about the making of the film. Very interesting. A documentary there, particularly from Michael Nankin's point of view, because he talks about how when he was writing the script, of course, he was writing a very dark script, that he was researching a lot of demonology. And he said that he was, according to him, he was waking up every night in the middle of the night at the exact same time. And on like the 4th or 5th night, he woke up and there was like a shadow, a specter at the end of his bed. And it asked him, "Do you want to see something?" And to which he quickly turned on the light, got up, and went and ate some ice cream. So, in other words, no, he did not want to see something from the specter. We also have a teaser trailer for the film, a theatrical trailer for the film, a TV spot. We've got a storyboard gallery, a behind-the-scenes gallery as well. We also have an isolated score and audio interview with composers Michael Honig and J. Peter Robinson. We have 2 commentary tracks on the film. Commentary track 1 is with Tibor Cox, Michael Nankin, and Randall William Cook. It was ported over from the 2009 DVD release. I did check out this commentary on that DVD release back when it was first released. I do remember it being really informative and really entertaining, to be honest with you. The new commentary features Randall William Cook, Craig Reardon, makeup effects artist Frank Carrere, I have horrible handwriting. I apologize. And Matt, photographer. Bill Taylor. I did not have an opportunity to check out that commentary, but the commentary from the 2009 DVD that's ported over here with Tibor Cox, Michael Nankin, and Randall William Cook is pretty informative and very entertaining. So that is it. Lots and lots of extras on this Blu-ray release for you guys to sink your teeth into. I highly recommend it. If you're a fan of The Gate, this is definitely the way you want to go. You're going to want to check out this Blu-ray release. If you've never seen The Gate, you should, and I can think of no better way of introducing yourself to this movie than with this awesome Blu-ray release from the folks over at Vestron Video. It is part of their Collectors series, and yep, I cannot say enough good things about it. Go pick it up. I'll put a link in the description to Vestron Video's Facebook page, as well as a link to lionsgateshop.com where you can go and pick up this Blu-ray. If you've seen The Gate, please let me know what you think of it in the comments section below. If you're hyped for this Blu-ray release, please tell me about it in the comments section below. If you like this video, please leave it a thumbs up. If you're not following me on social media, those links are in the description. They're also right around here. As always, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Take care, and until next time, peace. Say hello to the internet, Jeremy.
Hello to the internet.